The wind swept gently across the golden fields of wheat, carrying with it the smell of earth, harvest, and the faint sweetness of fresh bread cooling on a windowsill. 12-year-old Clara May brushed a strand of sun-bleached hair from her forehead as she pulled the last loaf from the oven. Her family's farmhouse sat at the edge of the settlement, where endless prairie stretched like an ocean under the September sun. Life on the frontier was never easy. Every day was work, tending animals, mending fences, hauling water. Yet Clara loved the simple rhythm of it. Her hands had grown strong from kneading dough, her back steady from carrying wood, but her heart had remained tender. Her mother often said Clara was born with eyes too soft for a hard world. That afternoon, as the family prepared for supper, Clara carried a small basket of bread to the back porch to cool. She glanced out toward the distant tree line where the prairie ended and the forest began. Something moved there, something small and hesitant. She squinted. A boy. He was no older than herself, maybe younger, and his clothes hung in tatters, his skin drawn tight over his bones. His dark eyes were hollow, his cheeks sunken. He stood still, as though debating whether to run or approach. His gaze lingered not on Clara, but on the bread. Clara's breath caught. She knew the warnings whispered in the village, that native tribes sometimes watched from the woods, unseen, their intentions unreadable. Fear was as common as dust in the settlement. But as Clara looked at the boy, fear didn't rise in her. Something else did, sorrow. She remembered her own hunger the winter before, when a late frost had killed most of their crops. For weeks they had stretched scraps of cornbread, sometimes going to bed with empty stomachs. She remembered the ache, the weakness, the tears that came silently in the night. And now, standing before her, was a child who carried that same hunger in his hollow frame. Without a second thought, Clara picked up a loaf of bread from the basket, still warm, and stepped off the porch. The boards creaked beneath her bare feet. The boy tensed, his body taut like a bowstring, ready to vanish into the trees. "It's all right," Clara whispered, though she knew he couldn't understand her words. Still, kindness has a language of its own. She broke the loaf in half, held it out, and slowly walked forward. The boy's eyes darted from her face to the bread. His lips parted, but no sound came. Clara knelt on the grass, set the bread down, and stepped back. "It's for you," she said softly, even if only the wind understood. For a long moment, the boy didn't move. Then, with trembling hands, he stepped forward. He grabbed the bread as though it might disappear, clutching it to his chest. His eyes filled with something Clara would never forget, relief, gratitude, and something like wonder. He tore into it, eating desperately, crumbs scattering down his chin. Clara felt her throat tighten, a lump rising as she watched him. It wasn't just food she had given, it was life. When the boy had eaten half, he looked up. Their eyes met, and in that silent gaze, Clara felt a bridge forming between them, two children from worlds told to fear each other, yet connected in hunger, in humanity. The boy stepped back slowly, nodding once. Then, like a shadow dissolving into the woods, he was gone. Clara returned to the porch, her heart thundering. She didn't tell her parents. She didn't need to. To her, it was just a small act, a loaf of bread shared with someone who needed it more. But that night, as the prairie lay under a canopy of stars, unseen eyes watched the village from the darkness of the trees. Eyes that belonged not to one starving boy, but to 300 warriors. And, by sunrise, Clara's simple act of kindness would set into motion a day the village would never forget.